Hey y'all, Casey here, and I am joined by my lovely boyfriend, Brandon Graham.
Lovely.
And we are here today because every month we get previews, right? And I guess for folks who don't know, previews is the catalog of all of the up and coming comics, all the comics that are going to be coming out in, it's 2 months in advance, I think, right?
Uh, Three, I believe. It's probably two, actually. I think I'm just
Yeah.
thinking three because when it has to be in. But yeah,
Oh,
it's a
that makes sense.
bizarre system that the comic stores operate in where, if you want to read a comic, it is best to go through, like, most things will be on shelves when they come out, but some books don't actually make it to comic stores. So if you want to go through the catalog of just everything that's being distributed to the comic stores from one distributor.
Yeah.
And the catalog we go through still has Marvel this month, but DC is not in it anymore.
Yeah, that is funny that the Marvel insert is still in there because, like you just pointed out, DC. So we should clarify for other folks who maybe don't know. Marvel and DC both used to be in previews
Right.
for super long time since I've been alive and knowing about comics. But recently they both left previews. They're doing their own distribution stuff now. And so yeah, that's what a weird thing that Marvel still gets included, but DC does not.
Yeah, well, I think kind of earlier this year, DC just kind of very unceremoniously kind of pulled the stakes
That's right.
and
Yeah.
started doing their own thing. Where I suspect the Marvel, I'm just half guessing, but I suspect Marvel um, went about it slightly slower. It's also interesting because when DC did it, it was much more of a pushback and people were really upset, and Marvel seems like people are more excited about that. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So anyways, this is where you find a whole bunch of the comics that are coming out every month. Um, but one of the big reasons I think that you and I happen to read it is because our tastes tend to be more towards the books that aren't necessarily guaranteed to be on comic shelf. Granted, we do have, we're super lucky here in Portland. We have Cosmic Monkey who does a really good job of ordering sort of some of like maybe the lesser popular books or like the more indie books or whatever. But I know like for me like growing up in Midwest, it wasn't always great indie selection around.
yeah, and even though the story is good as Cosmic Monkey, there's things like the first publisher that published my work was Antarctic Press, and I'm always paying attention to what they put out, and a lot of what they do just doesn't necessarily make it to many Portland comic stores.
That's a really good point. And actually, uh, we were like gonna start with one thing, but that hit on a thing that I think has been really interesting that we've seen over time with previews is Antarctic. Do you want to talk about that now, or should we save it for later?
We can get to Antarctic. I mean, something that I want to, because we're starting with kind of at the beginning of the book they have the like the recommended big things coming out, and there's an ad for Barbarella
Yeah.
coming out, and I think that was something that we've talked a lot about. Is kind of like for the past several years, comics have been really dry on anything that could be considered like cheesecake. Like you had like, you have Cho and J. Scott Campbell and a couple kind of pinup artists, like but this feels like there's like a slight resurgence of people doing that kind of work.
Yeah, that was a pretty exciting thing about I think this month, which I can't remember if I don't feel like in other recent months it's been that way, but this month it was like starting to see more of that sort of cheesecake style. Huh?
Yeah, and it's also interesting with previews too because they'll do like they'll categorize specific things. Interesting, like I think Marvel is doing like a Asian Pacific Islander month in their thing, but which is not in line with what Previews is doing like a Gay Pride month.
Right.
So they're like playing for different months.
Yeah.
Um, which is interesting and weirdly not kind of there's a couple books in it where they spotlight it, like I think the queer anthology No Straight Lines is being resolicited in it, but they didn't really lean that heavily into it. It was interesting.
Totally. Which I think is a departure from former years. I remember for sure there being whole sections um, uh, on that stuff,
Yeah, and it might just be that comics are generally that there's more, if like Cena Grace puts out a new book, it's not like, oh my god, a gay person did a comic. It's like, yeah, Cena's got another book out this month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, I think kind of cool. Like, I'm glad that it's not just being tokenized for like sexuality, but actually it's like, oh, Cena Grace has a new book, not
Right.
just like this gay guy has a new book.
And that's a conversation I was having earlier with some friends, is the idea that I think as comics kind of, comics always had lots of different types of people, but in recent years it's been much more like on the forefront. And I think as comics as that conversation kind of calms down, then it'll be more about the quality of work than like, this type of person did the book. It's more like, is it a good comic? And, oh look, the characters or creators or whatever are coming from a different background.
Not just the loudest person from that background on Twitter.
Oh yeah. It's no shortage of nightmare humans, but
yeah. So Barbarella, we're stoked about that. I'm reservedly hopeful, because I know it's I don't know. I hope it does well. I like Barbarella a lot. I hope it's a good book. We'll see.
Yeah. I don't have you had much good experience with Dynamite books in the past?
That's the thing. Yeah, no, I have not, unfortunately. Not to say that there's, not good out there. I haven't found it.
The last run, did you read the last run of Barbarella?
A couple, and some of that I was like pretty good.
Yeah, the main artist of it. It was one of those things where I'm spacing on the guy's name, but the artist that was on the earlier Barbarella, his European work was fantastic, and his American work, it looked like I just saw it and assumed he was getting a lower page rate. But it was still very competent and good, and it was fun. But kind of a relaunch is cool. Although part of me is always wishing for like, I don't know if I want to get into that territory, but like the earlier Barbarella, I would like a cheaper edition that is more focused on there's older editions of the translation I want to get more than the ones that's currently available.
Oh sure, yeah, and it is kind of interesting that that's, at least for me, it's been kind of hard to find older Barbarella stuff.
Yeah, and it's interesting because there's a lot of stuff like Milo Manara even did some Barbarella.
That's awesome. I did not know that.
He did a Barbarella short story in heavy metal. He actually redrew some of the Jean-Claude Forest original artwork, his version of it.
I wonder if it's collected anywhere. That'd be such a cool thing to have.
Yeah, I don't think he did enough, but there was a Barbarella film, I believe, or something that he was doing designs for. Just a bunch of cool Barbarella Manara art online.
Very cool.
Yeah, and yeah, I haven't looked at the interiors of this, and I think that's something that a lot of kind of more cheesecake publishers do that I'm not a fan of, is they'll focus a lot on the covers and the writers, and then they'll be like, and someone drew it too.
I think we ran into that same issue with Boundless Publishing, which is in here. Lots of good cheesecake. We'll get to that, I guess, but great, good, like cheesecakey covers, but then no interiors. So
yeah,
we shall see.
Yeah,
I ordered it anyways.
And recently we bought, to get too much into the side stuff, but recently we bought a bundle of Cave Woman stuff, and I realized after we got home that it wasn't Bud Root, the main artist of Cave Woman.
Because then you sent me some of his Bud Root's pages, and I was like, oh, what? This is so much better. Because I had never heard of Mr. Root.
Mr. Root.
Bud. I am Mr. Root. Root.
So yeah, we'll hit I guess we'll do it publisher by publisher.
Yeah, because that is fortunately sort of like how it's set up.
Oh, and this issue preview is cool because it had a Maria Andolfo cover.
Maria Lovett, yeah.
Maria
totally.
Lovett, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. Both amazing Italian women. And yeah, so I just really quickly, I guess the cover, beautiful. It's for her new book coming out called Porcelain.
And I swear she's probably got 3 books on stands right now.
Yeah,
still running.
I think so. Luna, Fearless, and I think one more, but I'm not sure what it is. Faithless, not Fearless, I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, the other one's about the schoolgirls. It's called like Passion and...
Oh, that's right. Eros and Psyche.
Eros and Psyche, that's it,
yeah.
And it had a great Gilliam March cover recently, which I want to get when it comes out.
Totally.
So I guess first we'll go through Image.
Yeah, for this super exciting book, by your buddy.
Oh yeah, so the first image book that they're pushing is Echo Lands, which is J.H. Williams' um, exciting new book. And I went to Vegas. We went to Vegas recently, but before that, last time I was in Vegas, I hung out with J.H. a lot and got to see all the originals that he's doing with this book. And I guess long story short, I was late getting to the dinner that I was supposed to go to because me and my friend Farrell were so caught up in how beautiful his pages were. And yeah, and he's been working on this for years. I think it got announced like maybe 4 years ago at an Image Expo. And the whole book is going to be a landscape, which is basically like you take a comic and you turn it sideways. So these long, beautiful pages. And he was doing about a page a week when I was talking to him. And they look like, because a lot of people do a page a day or multiple pages a day, but these are like, this is Sistine Chapel level comic books.
Yes, agreed.
King Spawn, where he whispers in a guy's ear and makes his head explode, which I enjoy. I'm actually excited about Ant. I don't know if it's Ant has a. Do you know the history of Ant?
I certainly don't know as much as you, because I think you and Joe are like Ant historians.
Joe's actually written some Ant.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, it was a weird. This guy named OMG, I think was his recent pen name, but his original Mario Gully. He created the character Ant as it's basically like sexy Spider-Man, and then Eric Larson, creator of Savage Dragon, bought Ant to put into his superhero universe. And this is the first issue of him actually using that character, as far as I know.
Oh.
So it's cool. It's like the first time that he's like had full reign on a character he didn't create, that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting.
I really like some of the backgrounds in these. Like, that's really cool. Oh, maybe I'll pick it up.
Yeah, I think Larson stuff is really fun.
Yeah. That's cool. Oh. So, the Labyrinth, yeah, I'm pretty stoked about the Labyrinth because it's from this Swedish author, creator, who I like a lot. Who probably most people on the internet are most familiar with all of his beautiful pieces as wallpapers. I certainly have a lot of them as wallpapers for my computer. But
The Rift was his art book, right?
Tales from the Loop.
Tales from the Loop. Sorry.
Yeah. He actually might. That's actually the name of the show. He might have an art book named The Rift, because that makes sense.
I feel like I'm thinking of 80s role-playing game. GURPS. Yeah, so Tales from the Loop, it's a role-playing game. It's an art book they made a role-playing game and then a TV show out of.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's very interesting. This work's beautiful. And as far as I can tell, this was like a narrative. I'm interested if it'll actually be a comic or like an illustrated art book or story book. But either way, I've never seen bad work by him.
Yeah, it's all super beautiful.
See any umlauts in that name?
No, but it's I don't know how you say it, but it's
Get some umlauts, dude.
Simon Stellenhag. The RPG, the tabletop role-playing game. I haven't gotten a chance to play it yet, but I bought it. Even if I never play it, I'm still happy I bought it because, like we've been saying, the artwork is so beautiful. But I do hope I play it at some point because the sort of conceit of the RPG is that you only play as kids. So it's kind of like Stranger Things, the RPG, but with beautiful artwork.
Interesting. And I assume there's Swiss children.
So it's interesting. There's different settings. So you can there's one, I think the U.S. one is like in Denver, and I think you can also play the original one is in Sweden. Yeah. Swedish
Okay.
kids.
Yeah.
It's on a small island.
They're like, let's set it in Denver, and then the other part of the team was like, what if we sweeten the deal? I probably make that joke every time that country ever comes up.
Two Moons.
Yeah. John Arcudi and who's the artist?
As I like to call him, Good Man John.
Yes.
Because he's one of my favorites in life.
John Arcudi and Valerio Gia Renno?
Do you want me to check?
Yes, he's right.
Cool. Valerio Giangiordano. Giangiordano. That's what I'm gonna go with that.
I'm gonna say Swiss.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's what I'm going with? Okay. Could be Swiss Italian, actually.
I think he's probably like drawing next to the Pope Italian.
Could be. You never know. Maybe he's the Pope's own artist.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right from Vatican City doing cowboy comics. But yeah, Two Moons is by John Arcudi of BPRD and Rumble fame, and hundreds of other fantastic books.
Truly.
Probably hundreds, actually.
I actually really like Major Bummer. It's my favorite thing.
Oh yeah.
So good.
He created the alien with a cigar,
Yeah.
which is really fun.
Did a cool run on Aliens.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, and Two Moons has been really great so far. So I think it feels like something, because it's a book that like I enjoy it quite a bit. The issues, every time I finish an issue, I want more.
Yeah.
So I think the trade would be an ideal way to read it.
Yeah. Support them now. Buy the issues now, but then maybe like save it up as like a treat for yourself or something, and then bust into it. Because it's super good. I just want more. And it's interesting to me encountering a Civil War thing out west. Now that I live in Portland, we live in Portland, but I used to not live in Portland. I grew up out east, and there was like such a big. There was so much more Civil War stuff there, right? Because like that's where it's shot. Versus out here, it's just not something that is relevant to the history out here. So it was cool. Like to me, it felt like a little slice of home in a weird way. Because if you read the book, it should not feel like a little slice of home, but it does to me. So
Yeah, I mean it's a fascinating story.
yeah, totally.
It's basically about a native guy who's fighting in the war, and then things get messy when people start turning into monsters.
Yeah.
I guess it's the shorthand version of the first issue.
That's the elevator pitch. I love it. And then there's another on the next page here. There's another book that you have
to
me too.
Kill 6 Billion Demons.
Yes.
It's a fantastic comic. It's mostly a web comic. Very much in kind of the lane of like a Jeff Darrow, James Stokoe kind of thing. My wheelhouse. Thomas, who did that, lived in Portland for a while, and so yeah, he runs it online, and you can read the whole thing for free on there, and he has a Patreon that is also like a side way to support him, and then he prints only the collected versions through Image, and so it's this cool way where I think completely different audiences probably engage with his work.
That's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's basically about a young woman whose boyfriend gets kidnapped by angel demon things, and she has to go to this other world to track him down.
And kill 6 billion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really beautiful stuff.
Okay. Oh, so quick little plug for that's on well into the series as opposed to a lot of the other things we're going to be talking about there. Number one's Die. Love Die. It's so good. It's so good. Please check it out. I hope it's doing well still. It's beautiful. It is basically like Jumanji meets D&D. I've like bought issues of it and given it to some of my D&D friends who are like not comics people at all, and they've really liked it. So highly recommend. The artwork is beautiful, and the writing is really, really good. So anyways, plug for that. By the way, we're not sponsored by any of we're not sponsored by any of this, Diamond Publishing or any of these publishers or whatnot. Just giving our thoughts. We wish we were.
That we wish.
Let's see. What else are we looking at?
Oh, Homesick Pilots is something that I've been enjoying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about kind of a house that this woman gets tied up in. It's a weird haunted being thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been fun.
A punk rock band.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It feels kind of authentic in a way that a lot of comics that kind of bring in like punk stuff don't.
Totally. Yeah. That's been lovely. Oh, Manifest Destiny?
Oh yeah. Have you read much Manifest Destiny?
Yeah, I got like the first 20 issues, and then I just had like a break in my comic reading because of law school. It's really hard to want to read anything for fun in law school.
Sure.
But yeah, how about you? Have you?
Yeah, I probably read less of it than you have, but I really liked what I read. And essentially, just the premise for people who don't know is essentially, is it like Lewis and Clark expedition, but a very fantastical version of exploring America, where there's like buffalo centaurs and like zombies, and then there's tree people and like all kinds of cool weird monsters in it, and it's just like a cool way to kind of reimagine early American history in the most fantastical way.
Yeah. And it's rad that it's still running 46. Not a ton of, aside from like Spawn, not a ton of indie books.
Or image books specifically that
Yeah.
are, and I think it's a Shadowline book. Not Shadowline, sorry. I think it's a Robert Kirkman's branch.
Oh, Skybound?
Skybound, yeah.
Okay. Cool.
I like the cover for Sweet Paprika a lot.
Yeah, Perca Andolfo, another, like we were saying earlier.
Oh yeah.
She's a wonderful Italian artist. Her and Maria Lovett are just like two of my favorite creators right now, and I think it's so awesome that they're all in books and like just they're doing their own thing and are wonderful creators. And I mean that in the creator sense. They're writers and artists, and
Yeah,
it's really awesome.
and something really interesting is a lot of I've gone to Europe a couple times for comic conventions, and there's such a push for a lot of those people to be working at Marvel and DC, but it's very rare that almost non-existent as far as I'm aware that Europeans get to write and draw their own books over Marvel and DC. I'm sure there's exceptions, but and so it's really nice to see those people doing work for the American market, or that's hitting over here from Europe. Makes it feel much more like world comics, and there's like a quality of European stuff that feels very different from American work.
Totally.
Yeah. Also, Gillian March with his Carmen series has been fantastic, and his stuff's really weird because he will do DC work that looks very different than his personal or European work.
Yeah, I remember I only became like conscious of him when we saw Carmen in this book, because you're like, oh, Gillian March, and I think you showed me some of his like you said, like DC work or whatever, and I thought it was cool, but like his work in Carmen is so beautiful.
Yeah,
Oh
it'd
gosh.
be interesting to see him do like a Gotham Sirens drawing that style as his, because and a lot of it's the coloring. It's very different. I'm a big fan of like flatter European colors that Carmen has done in.
Agreed. I think they let the art shine instead of over rendering. For sure.
Oh, and now we're on to Dark Horse Comics.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, the main thing at Dark Horse well, I can wait till we get there. These ones are kind of interesting, actually.
Okay.
So there's two Aubrey Sitterson books in here. Yeah, so Aubrey Sitterson basically was a guy who was putting out comics a couple years ago, and then I think he kind of pulled back and reorganized and started doing Kickstarter books and kind of showed what the attention from his reader would be, and then it seems like Dark Horse has been kind of giving him more of a push with the two books that he has out in this catalog. And so it's just cool to see like somebody kind of reorganizing their career and getting into like a new place.
Yeah, it's nice to see people doing well.
And interesting how Kickstarter is now played in the comic store comics too.
Yeah, we've seen quite a few that started as Kickstarter comics and then ended up in stores on shelves, which is great. It's a great way to show that you have a readership.
Yeah, and I think a cool way to kind of engage the readers in like helping cool work get out there too.
Totally.
So yeah, so the Dark Horse book I was most excited about is my friend James Stokoe's Orphan and the Five Beasts, which is the trade of it now. Yeah, so that'll be exciting because I think only 2 or 3 issues have come out so far. And there's a Gru Tarzan book that when I mentioned this to my friend Joe, he brought it up, and I was like, it is. I do like Sergio Aragonés stuff. I find it. I bet it'd be fun to read. I'm tempted to try it out because I haven't read his work in years, and I remember thinking that like Tarzan was something that probably wouldn't fly in the modern comic industry, but I could see Aragonés doing really cool stuff with it.
Cool.
Oh, I will make there is a note in the IDW stuff where I was happy to see that they're publishing a more Larry Hama G.I. Joe, because he was basically the guy that wrote all of G.I. Joe. You know, everything that anyone cares about, and had a tiny acting role in the movie The Warriors as one of the gang members.
That's cool.
So it's always cool to see Larry Hama still working. And I know John Arcudi has spoken really highly of him as an editor as well.
That's rad. Anybody who's good by John is good by me, pretty much. Junk Wraith is one I pre-ordered. I thought it looked really pretty, and forget what else sold me on it. It's an OGN, top shelf.
What's the artist name?
Artist writer Eleanor Ritchie. I don't even remember exactly why I like it, but
I think that's the first work by her. It looks really cool.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I'm excited to read that one. What was the publisher?
This is IDW.
Okay, cool. Oh yeah, and a lot of publishers are merged now. So IDW and Top Shelf are, and I think Oni and Lions Forge are now one company too. Which is great for confusing people. Let's see. We're also publishing Kiss comics in the year of our Lord 2021. Kiss are all still alive, right?
I think so. Sure.
Oh, there's an Elvira comic.
Yeah, specifically the one with Vincent Price.
Yeah.
That could be cool.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's I like how much Vincent Price played into Scooby-Doo episodes.
I know they had like characters that were sort of based on him, but do they actually have him voiced people? I think he's dead?
No? I think he was alive then. I might be wrong.
You know, I will cede the floor to Mr. Scooby-Doo resident.
Yeah, that's how I like to be referred as Mr. Scooby-Doo. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting. Just there's been Elvira has existed in comics for so long. There's so many different eras of Elvira comics. Let's see. Red Sonja and Barbarella.
Barbarella.
Yes.
Yay.
So yeah, I'm interested to see the direction that they take this one. Betty Page comics. I really like, just a side note, I really like seeing, they do cosplay covers for a lot of them, and people cosplaying as Betty Page is always interesting to me because she's a real human.
As opposed to like most of the other ones, like Red Sonja or whatever, like it is kind of a funny thing.
Yeah, like Red Sonja can look like, there's a large variety of what Red Sonja can look like. But,
that's interesting.
yeah, and Dynamite does a lot of Joseph Michael Linsner covers, which are interesting. I feel like he was kind of a bigger deal in the 90s, but it's cool to see his cover work. And I imagine there's audiences of people that just read Dynamite Red Sonja books, and that's like their core of going to the comic store. And that's a cool thing about going through previews sometimes, is almost the idea of like of the entire publishers that you're not aware of.
Yeah, you get to like get an update on what all's out there.
It's always weird when you see a beautiful cover on something like Power Rangers, because it's like,
Power Rangers has like had a total resurgence in the last couple of years in the comic book world, at least. I've noticed like big pushes and like support, like.
It makes sense, because people that grew up on Power Rangers are probably like 35 now.
31.
Oh, Interesting. I mean, because I was, I was too busy being cool. I couldn't.
Ooh. Someone remembers the 80s more than I do.
Mm-hmm. I was backwards baseball caps and drinking Jolt soda.
Mamo, I have pre-ordered. This is issue 2, so I don't have much to talk about, but I pre-ordered that. So.
What do you remember from the preview?
I don't. I just remember that I liked it.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I often wonder how I would feel if I read every comic that came out a month. I'd probably be very excited about, because I don't know if we'll get to Marvel previews, but I really I keep up on the Hulk series there, and I enjoy that. And it's the only thing I read there, and I don't know if other Marvel comics are good or bad because I don't read them, But it's kind of where my focus is.
Mm-hmm. Yay, new Maria Lovett book. This is the one that was on the cover. It's Porcelain. Super excited. It looks much less sparse than Eros and Psyche, which is her most recent book that started coming out. It reminds me more of Loveless and Faithless, which were two of her slightly earlier books that I really liked.
I have a theory about her American work. I feel like her European work looks like it was done over much longer periods of time, and then her earlier kind of Azzarello work looked like it was doing kind of she was kind of developing a faster, quick style to keep up with monthly things. And then when she did Eros and Psyche, it felt like she was doing basically a stripped down version of her European work, and this feels like kind of even a farther progression of that.
I think this is more stripped down looking? To me it looks much more detailed.
No, I'm sorry, I meant that she's kind of building back up.
Oh, I see.
Well, kind of, it's sparser than her European work, but not as sparse or kind of quickly done as some of her American work.
Huh.
This is all guess.
Sure.
I've met her all at once, but lovely woman.
Yeah, she seems, that's cool to get the first-hand experience, and just from my own internet research, she seems very, very cool.
But it's fascinating too, because I think if she's got 3 or 4 books coming out now, I assume there's an audience for it, and I wonder if there's people that just decide they like one book of hers, or if it's generally the same readership for everything. Because I know you buy everything with her name on it.
Yeah. They're until I guess maybe I'm burned, which I hope I am never by her, I buy every single book by her that she's involved in. Yeah. I like her lots.
Oh, and Ablaze is a really cool publisher.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're entirely local, but they certainly have an office in Portland.
Oh.
Because they mostly do European work.
Yeah. I just assumed they were based here and licensed stuff, but you know more about the biz.
I don't know what I'm talking about. I think they have a PO box here, and yeah, they've been doing. It's interesting. You've been getting the Conan books.
Mm-hmm. What? The Cimmerian.
The Cimmerian, yeah, which is interesting. It's because Conan is public domain in Europe, but not in America, so they can do Conan books just on the cover. It's called the Cimmerian. And I mean, not even to take away from Marvel Conan, which I have not read, but it looks like they're certainly doing a Conan that looks more appealing to me.
Oh yeah, it's weird. I've read one recent Marvel Conan, and it's fine. Versus the Cimmerian, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get every one of those. It's great. It's it's much more adult. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna ask if have you read much of the early John Buscema, the studio guy we were just talking about?
Barry Windsor
Smith.
No, but I bet that's amazing. You have, right?
Oh yeah, no, I'm obsessed with that stuff. My Prophet comic I wrote was me basically trying to recreate that style of stuff.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so we should do a Conan episode.
Most definitely. There's that Eros and Psyche and the Cimmerian below it.
Nice.
And then one more hit from Ablaze is Gunho.
Oh yeah, Gunho's been great.
Yeah, which was we actually picked it up on sort of the second installment, and didn't matter. Still, it was great. We jumped in.
Yeah, and we also got a sister from Ablaze.
We did, yeah.
Yeah, they're really shaping up to be one of the publishers that we buy the most stuff from.
Yeah. Yeah, Ablaze is really, really solid, and yeah, getting good hits from Ablaze. Good job, Ablaze. Oh, yeah. So we've got this one shot of Cave Woman that we're gonna order. I have ordered, I think.
Nice. And that's the Bud Root cover, I think.
I hope he's interiors too. Is he not interiors?
I think he usually does interiors. I don't know. I'm.
Oh no! It says Devin Maisie. I should look up the art before I buy it.
Oh, maybe the interiors are great though.
I hope so.
Yeah. I mean, we're taking a risk with Barbarella, then Cave Woman too. I mean, I've read some Cave Woman.
But it was just so recently burned by that Missing Link series.
That's true. Oh, yeah. What was this one?
Valkyrie Saviors.
Antarctic Press, because I think I mentioned before that Antarctic was a publisher that I pay a lot of attention to. And Gold Digger, Fred Perry's Gold Digger. What issue number is that?
289. So we got 11 more.
Yeah, which is crazy because he's done. Gold Digger at 289 is a relaunch. I know he at least went to 50 issues with the Black and White series. So he's done more Gold Digger issues than most. I think it's probably not in numbering, but in things, it's probably beat out like McFarlane and Larson on Spawn and Seventh Dragon. And it's only one guy who does at least a comic a month.
It's great. I like Gold Digger. We have it on our pull list, and so that's rad. I think I also have Jungle Comics on my pull list, and Valkyrie Saviors I am going to be ordering because that looks
It's very fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like they're kind of what they do. Like I always refer to them as Texas manga, and what they do seems to change a little bit every once in a while, but it's always fascinating to see what direction they're going in.
Yeah.
For a while they had their Catch It One, I think it was called, Rabbits in Vietnam. It's very unique. I think it was some translated manga.
And before that, they or not, maybe not before, maybe at the same time. Off-World was a really great book. So let's talk about Frank Cho. I'm getting this book, Fight
Support Your
Girls.
Lifestyle.
Fight Girls. Are you enabling me?
I mean, pretty much. I mean, I think Cho is what Cho is. It's that line of, it does what it says on the can.
Yeah. I mean, I'm getting it. I'm stoked. It's gonna be fun.
You cannot. I'd be really surprised if you got Fight Girls and were surprised by what went on inside. Be like, Fight Girls is probably Fight Girls.
Yeah. So cool. Just like boundless comics. I'm not like gonna break open a boundless comic and like think that this is gonna be Nabokov.
Do you saying that boundless comics have boundaries?
And no shade to them. I think all different creators, different mediums, whatever, can serve different purposes. I don't need everything to be. I don't want everything to be like super high level.
Yeah, we talked about this. How not everything should be for everyone.
Yeah.
And kind of like in this, like the return to more kind of cheesecakey stuff is like really nice because it felt like for a while that was like it was feeling like a little push down in comics. And a lot. It was very silly because it's like that's some like you can draw absolutely anything and you're not going to draw, sexy ladies.
Yeah.
Like I don't trust you.
What's going on there? I don't understand. Okay. Oh, Junkie Cable. I would be much missed.
Oh yeah,
I did not mention that. Such a good book.
I haven't finished it yet, but I really like the art in the issue that we grabbed.
Yeah, it's so good. The art is great. The writing is so good. It's another book that's definitely leaning more into like the adult end of comics, which is great. Yeah, I'm stoked on it. I hope please check it out because it's really good.
Junkie Cable from Behemoth, I believe.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, it's really cool. I was actually going slow with it because I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah, it's nice. And it's written, drawn, everything by Claudio Avella. I'm gonna pronounce that. I'm pretty sure that's right. Who is a good dude, from what I
Oh,
understand.
I've talked to him a little bit on Instagram, and yeah, it was one of those things where I picked up the book and I was like, this looks familiar, and then I looked him up and I was like, oh, cool. Um, I've interacted with this guy and reposted his art because his stuff's fantastic, and it's so great to own a print version of it. Yeah, even in my mind, I separate like online work and print stuff so much.
Mm-hmm. That's why I get so frustrated when there are these like Patreon artists that I follow and support and whatever, and like their stuff's just not in print, and it's true. Like I'm glad that I get to see their art at all, but I want it to be in print. Onta, if you're listening, please print your comics.
I've mentioned that to him.
I know.
Yeah, onto Purple Birdman is another guy who you're.
Well, Purple Birdman at least has the option to. Yeah, I mean, I love Purple Birdman, but he has the option to do Gumroad, which Onta should do that. Why not? It's so easy. I literally have just printed off his pages and made them into my own book.
I like that you're talking about like, and then we made the hooch and.
No, don't make me do that. I will give you my money. Just print your comics. Anyways.
Yeah, no, it is nicer to own tactile things.
Yes. Boundless.
Boundless.
Yay.
Someone was saying that Boundless are they tied to Avatar? Am I just making that up?
It certainly looks like they might be.
Yeah. And Boundless they publish a lot of work by Christian Zenzier? Zenier? Yeah, who did, when I was doing porn comics, he was doing a lot of porn comics. So it was always really, like, I know, it's like, and I've worked on Adventure Time and done porn stuff and everything, but I remember seeing he did, I think Banana Games was his big series over at NBM, or Emerotica, if you will, and then he was hired to work on Buffy for a little while, which I thought was a cool switch over.
But the book by him that I really want to get is neither of those.
Oh, Honey Liquor Sorority, the classic Honey Liquor Sorority.
Uh-huh.
In one of my art books, I have a sketch I redrew of a Honey Liquor Sorority panel. It's an adult comic book.
Indeed.
About a woman who starts her own sorority.
Oh yes. Lots more there. Look it up. So yeah, anyways, get Jungle Fantasy for sure. Jungle Fantasy's gorgeous. Beautiful. And I think I'm gonna get Helena? How do you pronounce that?
Oh, that
guy.
was really interesting.
Yeah, and I just noticed now that it's like on like a tie-dye background, which is cool because it's Project MK Ultra, sex, drugs, CIA. It's all right up my alley.
There's a lot of books about that have been coming out recently.
And there's like a movie, Men Who Stare Goats, and all this. And for those who don't know, MK Ultra was a real program that the CIA instituted in America, where they experimented on American citizens with drugs, predominantly LSD, but also other things. And so yeah, it's super. I mean, it's a messed up thing that happened, but it's a super interesting thing to read about.
I know one of the things is they would have basically prostitutes give their Johns, like dose them with acid and then observe what happened.
Jesus.
I think that had this different name than MK Ultra, but it was tied to the same, just people doing good work for their country.
Yikes. Okay, but I'm getting that done.
Do we pass Euro comics yet?
No.
Also, I think we're gonna have to cut it short soon.
Okay, let me know. I'm stoked about this, the Secret Life book by Theo Ellsworth.
Theo Ellsworth is really fantastic.
Yeah,
cartoonist.
I was like kind of interested in it when I read it, and then you told me some really cool stuff about him that I was like, oh, let me get that.
Yeah, he did a bunch of zines. He lived in Portland for a while and was friendly with my friend Farrell. And I know he did one of his comics that I really enjoyed. Started off with putting the reader in a robot body in the story, and he did all this cool stuff where he's like, close your eyes and turn the page, and I'll show you your new body. So it was like very tactile and involved the reader. So that was really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so his stuff is definitely worth tracking down.
Yeah, so that's something that's exciting. This is Moomin book. We all know that I like Moomins.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Probably be getting that. Then, okay, so we got Simon Hanselman's Crisis Zone.
Oh, yeah, it was a really good month for Fantagraphics, huh?
Yeah, big hearts for Fantagraphics this month, which was nice because we frankly haven't found a lot of stuff from Fantagraphics that we love, and like
They did the Barry Windsor Smith Frankenstein recently.
oh yeah,
Which
I
was
didn't
really
realize that was
cool.
coming. Yeah, cool.
But yeah, a lot of their stuff. They're a really weird publisher because they kind of walk the line so much between reprint, archival, classic comics.
Mhm.
You know, they have all the Peanut stuff and Mickey Mouse and everything, and then they have the very indie stuff. But yeah, I mean, Hanselman is fantastic.
Yeah,
They have Ed Pisker's Red Room, which was.
go ahead.
I was going to say, last time I went to the comic store, they were telling me that a lot of the people that bought my book also bought Red Room, which is cool to kind of see what pairs up with people.
Yeah, especially since I'm like a cool guy.
Yeah. And kayfabe's very fun.
Yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to touch back on Simon Hanselman. Fantagraphics, as long as you continue to publish Simon, I will continue to be a fan because he's one of my favorite creators, hands down. Got to meet him like many moons ago, and I'm sure just made a total buffoon of myself. But
Simon's a lovely human.
I have a lock of his hair in one of the books he signed.
Or a lock of a wig, probably.
It's a wig. Yeah, it was like a bright red wig, but still cool. Still
Yeah,
very
and
fun.
sometime soon they're gonna put out his like COVID comic he did.
Oh, that's this one.
That's
yeah.
this one.
Yeah,
Oh,
Crisis Zone.
fantastic. Yeah, because that was fantastic.
Especially living in the Pacific Northwest, like it very much captures a lot of the stuff that we sort of lived through.
Very much so.
Or are living through, I guess. So, and then the one other thing I wanted to touch on this page was The Butchery, which is by Bastien Vives, who wrote or created A Sister, the other book that we talked about from Ablaze recently, that we really liked.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And I think Bastien Vives is part of the group that does, if I remember right along with Balak, that is called The Last Man, which is basically kind of like a Dragon Ball kind of shonen comic.
Oh, that's cool. In manga style, or?
Yeah, it's much more manga. There's multiple volumes, and I think there's an animated series now.
That's cool.
Hey y'all, editing Casey here. We ran out of time on that last video, so sorry if it sort of ends a little abruptly. But that was pretty much previews. There's so much stuff in there that we can't get to it all, but that was a little taste of like what we do every month, where we go through previews. And if y'all like that one, then I think maybe we'll do it again next month. But thanks for watching. If you got something out of this video, please click those like and subscribe buttons, and see you next time.